Hey guys, Lawrence here again. Welcome back to the AIRTOC demo series. Today we're focusing in on one of my favorite deliverables in the planning phase, the work breakdown structure. Now, why is this my favorite deliverable? It's probably because it's the one document that determines my career trajectory and overall happiness over the next year or so. Now, I joke about that, but there's a degree of truth to what I'm saying. The WBS is one of the most foundational tools in project management because it transforms your scope into a structured, manageable set of components. In this video, I'm going to walk you through what a WBS is, why it's critical, and how project managers use it to plan, estimate, schedule, and control all of their project work. Then we'll go over to a live AIRTOC demo, and you'll see exactly how to generate a WBS using the AIMPM project management coach. So let's begin, as always, with PMI's definition. According to PMI, the WBS is a hierarchical decomposition of the total scope of work required to accomplish the project's objectives and deliver its results. Each descending level of the WBS represents an increasingly detailed definition of the work. This is a good definition, but it really only scratches the surface of what the WBS is and what it takes to create one. So let's dive a little bit deeper. Now, our definition is essentially the same here. The WBS breaks down deliverables into smaller, manageable components. It defines 100% of what needs to be done to produce the deliverable. It organizes the work into a logical structure, essentially what's the hierarchy. The primary goal, though, of the WBS is to ensure that nothing is missed before you plan your schedule. The easiest way to do this is with good requirements gathering, but more on that later. If you're able to draft a good WBS, it will form the basis for estimating, scheduling, and risk planning. If you stick the landing there, your project will most likely end on time and within budget if you're able to control things. Now, don't get me wrong, you don't want to dump every task into a WBS. The WBS should be deliverable-based, meaning it breaks down the work by the things you need to produce, not the tasks or activities that are needed to produce them. Here's a quick tip that'll save you some grief. When you're breaking down the work, once you get to a level where you can assign a deliverable to a person on your project team, stop there. This is what's considered a work package, a set of tasks that a person needs to complete in order to produce the deliverable, or at least a component of the bigger deliverable. Keep this in mind. If the scope statement defines what must be delivered, the WBS defines how those deliverables are organized, how they're broken down, and who's responsible for actually delivering them. So, why is the WBS important? Well, it's incredibly important because it creates clarity around your project scope. It ensures that the entire project is understood before you guys execute it. It helps identify risks earlier. It provides structure for estimating costs and timelines. It enables accurate scheduling and improves your team alignment. It helps identify missing deliverables, helps reduce ambiguity, and it forms the foundation for the WBS dictionary in your project plan. Projects that skip a work breakdown structure almost always encounter scope gaps, confusion, rework, and inaccurate estimates. This is why PMBOK calls the WBS a critical planning artifact, and we think it is too. Now, the WBS is used throughout planning and execution as the backbone of project structure. It's not a static document. As requirements change, and they will, scope will change, and if scope changes, the WBS will change. Why? Because the WBS helps determine which resources need to be brought in, the extra costs associated with those resources, and those things determine how change affects timelines. The impact directly affects your project schedule. So in other words, one new requirement can change the game dramatically, and the WBS is the way to control that. The funnel represents the constant flow of new requirements and changes that come into projects. The best way to protect yourself against this cycle is to, again, gather good requirements early on in the project. This will save you lots of rework later, and that's why requirements gathering will always be the prerequisite for any WBS builds or updates according to us. So now that you understand what a WBS is and why it's essential to your project, let's move into the live demo. I'm going to walk you through how to generate a complete work breakdown structure using the AIRTOC framework and the AIMPM project management coach. Let's go. Okay guys, before we dive into the WBS, there's a few things that we like to make sure you know before we go into our demonstration. Number one, for the sake of time and simplicity, we'll be using simulated minimal data. In real projects, most likely you'll have a lot more context to add. Number two, Even with simplified data, you'll still see how powerful AIRTOC prompts can be. But remember, the more context you add, the better the output. And lastly, this process applies to every AIRTOC template in the textbook. The workflow is universal and repeatable across all deliverables. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, before we go deeper into the demonstration, we always like to cover all of the components of the demonstration. So first off, you have the AIRTOC template for the work breakdown structure and dictionary, okay? This is gonna draft the WBS and the dictionary, but for right now, I'm only interested in the WBS, so I'll just take this piece of the query out. This is the same template that you'll find in your AIRTOC library, as well as your textbooks. Okay, let's move on to the actual scenario where we'll get some information. This is a real world scenario that we drafted up here. Something that always comes up that prompts us to draft a WBS, and then we'll take this information and apply it to the actual simulation data here. The simulation data is indicated in red, and we break out one extra row at the bottom for data inputs so that you can see the difference between inputs for context and the data inputs. Last but not least, you have your AIMPM project management coach, which we're going to throw the prompt into to get the output. All right, let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so starting off with the AIRTOC template for work breakdown structure and dictionary. On the left-hand side here, you have your AIRTOC framework. So you have your AI platform, your role, task, and output, and your context. Below that, you have AI produces, which again is just an example of what AI should produce once you're done entering data into the query. All right, so let's start with the AI platform, recommending Gemini or ChatGPT for this. Also, the role is a project manager or a scheduler. The task is to draft a WBS, breaking down scope into deliverables and work packages with supporting details. And our output is a hierarchical WBS with the structured dictionary entries. And again, we don't want the dictionary, so we'll just take this out here. All we want is a hierarchical WBS. It'll create the dictionary as well, but for the sake of token size and the details that we want to show you guys in the WBS, we'll take that out for now. Inputs for context, again, high-level project information that you can find in your charter. That includes the scope, your problem and goal, your constraints, your risks, your stakeholders, and then you have your additional data, which includes deliverable data, structural data, work package data, dependency data, validation data. And again, this comes in the forms of other documents that you may have drafted, meeting minutes, notes, org charts, all of this different stuff that you may need to add in to give AI an example of information in your organization for it to create the WBS. Okay, so that's part of what we have in the template. Let's move on to the scenario. Our scenario says, after scope approval, leadership required the PM to translate the high-level workflow automation program scope into structured deliverables to support scheduling, estimating, and resource planning. Early planning workshops revealed unclear boundaries between workflow configuration, integration tasks, and dashboard deliverables, increasing the risk of missed work packages. Compliance, finance, and operation teams required unique acceptance criteria, making it essential to document the detailed WBS entries for alignment. Dependencies across design, build, integration, testing were not fully mapped, creating a potential for sequencing errors and downstream delays. The PMO directed the project manager to create a complete WBS and WBS dictionary to establish structure, clarify ownership, and prevent scope creep before baseline approval. So that's the context in which we're going to operate from within the simulation data. The AI platform, role, task, and output remain the same. The information that we have from that structured scenario is going to get put into our query. So we have our high-level scope, we have our baseline problem and goal, our constraints here, our risks, our stakeholders, okay? We also have some deliverable data, some structural data, work package data, dependency data, and validation data. And here we have a WBS coding scheme that we're going to use, a scope statement, functional, non-functional requirements, right? All of the requirements information definitely would need to go in here in terms of your deliverable data, right? Because that's what the WBS is going to be structured off of. Remember, requirements come first, WBS comes second. So let's go ahead and take this information, we'll copy it, and we'll paste it into the AIMPM project management coach. All right, we have everything correct there. And we did add WBS dictionary. Let me go ahead and fix this here. Okay, hierarchical WBS, and we'll get rid of the dictionary here as well. We don't want AI to become confused. And let's hit go. All right, thinking. And again, the longer your AI thinks, the better. It's processing the information that you gave it, and now it's going to break out a work breakdown structure for us. Okay, it gives us the levels, level 1, 2, 3, and 4. All right, and now we're starting to get some of those requirements coming in. So we have a program management and governance. Okay, this is all the information that we need to do to set this up. Requirements and design, requirements validation. Okay. And it's breaking it down in a hierarchical order, which is what we want for a work breakdown structure. This is information that you can copy and paste into Excel, draft out into a larger Word document. You can actually get this downloaded into a Word document and start to work from there. Copy and paste this information into another Word document. There's a lot of different things you can do as things start to get drafted out here. All right, then we have integrations, dashboards and reporting, departmental process consolidation, testing, deployment, and it's still going. Post implementation support, project closure. Okay, so it walks us essentially through the entire life cycle of the project, and then it starts to give us some next options. So it asks us, do we want the WBS dictionary? Do we want a dependency network diagram? Do we want a schedule-ready task list? Do we want a risk register tied to each WBS element? Do we want resource loading model? Okay, but ultimately what you have here is a very good outline of a work breakdown structure that you have to properly iterate through maybe once or twice with your project team. Okay, if you have all of the context information to put into the query, this is going to be a lot more detailed. Okay, now once again, this is a starting point, but it's a good starting point. And it's one that you won't have to iterate through very much. You have maybe 80 to 90% of what you need for your work breakdown structure here, okay? All you would need to do is take this information, put it into an Excel spreadsheet, or actually get AI to do it for you, which is the next level. And again, this is the power of AIRTOC, taking minimal data sets to produce things that are 80 to 90% complete in order for you to iterate through maybe once or twice with your team to get a final deliverable. All right, hope you guys enjoyed the video. We will see you in the next one. Take care.